cried the sparrow.
You're listening to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast, where we sit down with everyday people who do extraordinary things. I'm your host, Jerome Rand. Good afternoon, everybody, and happy beginning to summer. It is June 2nd. Yes, 2nd now. And pretty excited about today's podcast. It was actually recorded a couple of days ago. If you're a Patreon family member, then you know who it is. But we had Colin Denker back on the show, fresh off his trip from San Francisco to Hawaii solo. Really, really great to have him back on the show. I feel like we're kindred spirits, and we come up with a lot. Bouncing these ideas and thoughts off each other is always an absolute blast. And I'm not sure how much or what he filmed while he was out there this time, but I hopefully he is going to be putting some stuff out. So there'll be links in the description for his YouTube channel and stuff. So definitely check that out. I do know his video that he did from the trip, Oregon down, or was it Oregon? Down the coast to the West Coast, was really, really good. Really good. So definitely want to have that, give that a check out. But other than that, I don't want to spoil anything. It was great to have him back on the show. I can't wait to do it again because he's full of adventures and full of really insightful ideas, and definitely it's always thought-provoking whenever I sit down with him. So big thanks to Colin. If you want to help support this show, Sailing into Oblivion, and future adventures aboard the Mighty Sparrow, in which I can share those experiences with everybody, consider becoming a part of the Patreon family or one-time donations. All the links are in the description. We've got the merch, the books, the children's books, the GoFundMe, and the Amazon wish list. But if you're looking for me as a speaker, I will be in the Chicago area quite a bit. I'm also going to be in the Cape Cod region for August, up in Maine after that. And then into the fall, who knows, back down to Florida possibly in the winter. If any of those dates seem to line up with some special event that you're having, check out sailingintooblivion.com, and you can find information about that or just reach directly out for coaching, consulting, any of that. Thanks for listening, and without further ado, here is my convo with Colin. All right, Colin Denker back on the show, 2,000 miles deeper into his sailing adventure. Colin, welcome. Not only am I back on the show, but welcome back to land, dude. You just made it, right?
Thanks, Jerome. Yeah, it is. What is it? Friday? I got in, gosh, I don't even know. Was it Tuesday? Yeah, Monday night, I think I set anchor in Waikiki.
Yeah, I think so. Well, because I saw it from Sailor James. Shout out to him. And I think he posted something on his Instagram. And then I was like, oh, man, he's made it. And yeah, dude, San Francisco to Hawaii. Crazy.
San Francisco to Hawaii.
How does it feel? Yeah,
it feels good.
Feel pretty good.
It does feel good. It felt, yeah. It's you know how these things are. Like they start fading. Like the moment I dropped the anchor, literally, like that moment, I sat down in the cabin and I felt like I just woke up from a dream. Like that whole thing. It's like everything's different. It's that thing is over, and it's just so surreal, but it feels wonderful. And um walking on land again. I got to finally get that
Little
first
wobble.
yeah, I got to experience that. It didn't last that long, but those first few steps were pretty weird.
It kind of almost feels like, for me, when it's really bad, like if it's been a rough passage, it kind of feels like I'm walking on a trampoline or maybe like walking on a waterbed. And yeah, it doesn't last too long, but I've had a couple of adventures where I come back in and maybe it'll be like 3 days where I'm like, should I call a hospital or something? Like this can't stick around.
Yeah. I've also, like, my legs are, walk basic 3, 4, 5 miles a day, like gets my legs sore, like in weird areas. And I noticed, I think it was the first day, I was like a little like jumpy, like this kid kind of ran up to me, like ran by me really fast. It felt like there was like a wave that was about to board, I was like, ah! And I had 2 nights ago, I woke up in the middle. No, it was yesterday in the afternoon. I was taking an afternoon like siesta, and I woke up into this fog, and I thought I was at sea,
Yeah.
and I didn't know where, and it was like a kind of like alarming feeling, but I didn't jump up. I was just lying in my bed being like, "Oh no, I'm still at sea. Where am I though? Where am I going? I'm just out in the I'm still doing that." It was weird.
Well, and dude, I've definitely experienced that. But I think the stranger, probably more crushing one that I have experienced plenty of times, and I wonder if this happened to you, is when you're really exhausted out there mid trip, and you fall asleep, and you get a couple of hours in deep sleep, and you're dreaming, and you're back on land, and like everything's all good, and then you wake up and realize you're still out at sea in the middle of an ocean somewhere.
I
And
didn't
your
have that.
world
No.
comes crashing in.
Yeah, rude awakening. No, I didn't have that
Well, but
exact thing, but I had dreams that I was like, "Oh man, I'd like to go back to that. Let's try to get a little more, you know."
oh my gosh, yeah, are you kidding me? I've tried to do that 80 million times.
Mhm.
I've only ever been able to do that like when I'm out camping or something like that for some reason. Maybe this it's the separation and the security I feel when I'm out in the woods, where
Mhm.
I'm just like, oh, I think I'm going to roll back over. I'll enter that dream once more. Never be able to do it. The boat, whenever I wake up on the boat, it's like I've woken up for a purpose. And like
Mhm.
my mind just starts picking through details and how the boat feels and what that sound was and,
Right.
all that sort of stuff. But
Did
were
you
you able to get, oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, yeah, in the same vein, like I'm wondering when you did your trip or when you sail offshore now, do you use your phone as your alarm? Do you set alarms on your phone, or what's your wake up call when you go?
I don't set any alarms,
You
man.
don't set anything.
Yeah. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Technically, the AIS alarm is always on so that if a
Sure.
ship, I think I set my perimeter at I want to say 2 miles, maybe 3 miles, something like that, and about a 20-minute CPA, closest point approach. But no, I don't ever use any sort of alarm clock or anything like that, because I guess the only instance where I might consider it was if I really needed to get some sleep and I knew that I was going to be getting within like 20 miles ashore within
Hmm.
the next few hours. But
Right.
typically, if I'm that close to shore, I'm not going to be able to fall asleep anyway. It just isn't
Hmm.
like in the cards unless I like heave to. So
Sure.
yeah, I don't know. I figure if the boat and the conditions and my body needs the sleep and is allowed to do so, I just let it happen. And
Hmm.
but also, in the tradition of sailing, with other crew and everything, when I was cutting my teeth doing, yacht deliveries and stuff, I was always told by these captains, no alarm clocks. The
Mm.
person on watch wakes up the next person, because that way
Uh,
you don't hop up on deck, 10 minutes early and forget that you left your alarm on, which now is
hmm.
blaring and wakes up a bunch of other people. So,
Mm.
it's one of those
That
things where
makes
I think it's a
sense.
throwback, yeah, to my training before. What are you using out there?
Well, I ended up with a pretty similar approach. Like if I was near shore, I would set one. Um, Oftentimes I wouldn't even end up sleeping, and the thing would just wake me to, or tell me to go take a look around and stuff. Um, I found that whatever I set, I would get used to and then sleep through anyway. So
Yeah, right.
I was trying to thread the needle of like, because at first I was like, I'd have the crazy like really aggressive, abrasive ones,
Yeah,
and it's such an unpleasant thing to wake up to. So I tried to go to something like a little kinder, but then those
yeah.
don't wake you up. And if you're tired enough and it's like do 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 do, you're
You're
just
just like,
sleeping to that.
and then there
Um,
were clown cars all around me in this dream, and I heard the ice cream truck rolling through.
yeah, but no, I ended up not you like in the main the main chunk of the trip in the middle. I didn't set one either because I didn't see a ship. I think it was like 11 or 12 days that I didn't see anything, even an AIS target. Um,
Wow. Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question is how busy of a route is that? And I mean, so just for the audience members, I suppose like um you left from San Francisco May when did you leave? Like May 5th?
May 8th, I think.
May 8th. And last time we chatted, you were saying like you kept getting delayed or whatever. The winds were just absolutely howling right there off the bay, and so you just had to kind of
Hmm.
wait it out.
Yeah, my target date was April 15th.
Oh,
And
that's right. Yes. Okay.
so it took, over 3 weeks. And I'm sure you can relate. Time becomes elastic. Like once your date is there, if you get delayed, you're going to fill up the delayed time with projects. Like
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
you were supposed to be ready already, but in the end, it was kind of like a blessing in disguise. Like I had all this stuff that I got done after the 15th that was pretty crucial that, may have not gotten done. But I didn't realize, I think a lot of the stuff I heard about California to Hawaii was based on like Los Angeles or San Diego to Hawaii. So I didn't
Hmm.
know, I didn't realize, I didn't appreciate how crazy Northern California is, like even in, April and May. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just like a gale every day, and you get these like 1 or 2 day breaks, but the sea state is still built up,
Yeah.
and you got a day or two to get a little way a ways from shore, and then the wind's gonna pick right back up, and the sea state's still crazy, and so it took a while, and I still ended up having to kind of take something I wasn't thrilled with, weather window wise, because the forecast said, I'd get a couple days of decent wind, like between 15 and 25 knots. Um, but the seas were supposed to be 10 feet with like an 8 second interval. And
Jeez.
I didn't love, and it would have been on the beam, and it was.
Oh man,
So I'm
roly
like,
roly.
this is all I can do is I don't want to jump right back into like 10 footers I wanted to ease into it, but I had to take what I got.
Well, that's definitely the ideal situation I'm always looking for is to at minimum have 2 days where it's going to be pretty easy sailing. The seas are relatively calm, um, and then then you kind of work the boat into offshore mode. You work yourself into it, and then when that cold front or that system comes in, that's already that is coming, you're kind of ready for it in a way, I think, and I don't know. It was kind of interesting because like all winter long, I was out sailing in the Atlantic, and every time I'd have like a day or two where it was decent, and then it would get rough. There'd be a cold front or something, and yeah, it'd get pretty sloppy and a little bit intense. And I can
Hmm.
remember after like the third trip that I did, I was like, man, why is it? And then I was like, oh yeah, because it's the winter time and I'm in the Atlantic. Like, yeah, that's why it's always like this.
Yeah.
But that's I'll tell you, good on you though for at least having the patience to wait, nearly a month before you actually went because a lot of people would have gone stir crazy and just jumped right out into, who knows, a pretty bad situation and then something breaks because you're not quite ready for it and boom, then you're tucking tail and turning right back around.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on a boat, my boat's kind of small and I was pretty rusty. I don't, I'm not a big day sailor. I think between the two trips, between arriving in San Francisco and departing for Hawaii, I think I sailed 4 times. Um,
Oh wow, that's it on the bay. Holy
yeah,
cow!
maybe
Well,
five.
but it's understandable though, because a lot of it, you're working and then you're working on the boat, and when your boat's in sort of project mode or even in just live aboard mode, you got to do a lot. Before you can't just like pull the anchor out and be like, let's go for a quick rip. It's like, all right, we got to
Yeah.
stow everything and all
Yeah, it's like let's take my house into the middle of the bay. So like
that.
we get it ready for that. Even the little I get lazy, it's like the shore power and the the sail covers and the line. When you're doing it alone, and then like if it's good wind, sometimes docking alone and wind is dicey, and you just I don't know. And yeah, I did a ton of work to the boat over that period. So
Yeah. No, 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 it's all right. I mean, and to go back to what you're saying about doing all those projects that you had this unexpected time for, I actually kind of realized that was always going to be a bit of a situation. And I think when I started heading out, maybe 2 trips after the one going around the world, what I started to do was basically make a false start date where I'd say, okay, I am departing on October 30th, and that is the day that this boat has to be 100% ready. And then, the wind window wouldn't cooperate, and I'd have an extra like 3 days or whatever. But to the best of my abilities, I got that boat ready so that all of a sudden, all these other oddball things that came up, plus, what I would call the extra credit prep work, I got to go through that. And then, you were just almost always even more ready, more prepared than you even thought you were. So in some ways, that little bit of a delay can be kind of a nice thing.
oh yeah. Yeah, I was working up until 2 a.m. the night before I left. And
Wow.
I wanted to leave at 9 a.m. and I got up at 6. So I got 4 hours of sleep, got up at 6 and started working more, and I was still an hour late and left at 10. So
Oh,
like,
geez. Well,
I
you
mean,
might
I
just
was
have like an issue with punctuality going on. That's what kind of sounds like to me, Colin.
believe it or not, I'm fairly, the German blood in me. I'm pretty punctual for other people, but I think I just didn't. I think my problem is underestimating, uh, like how much time something takes. I've learned to triple my estimates for time. If I think a
Oh, yeah,
project
yeah.
is 2 hours, it's probably 6. If I think it's a day, it's probably 3 days. Like,
3 days.
truly.
That's not a bad idea because I mean, honestly, I wouldn't call it sandbagging. I'd call it a very good way to beat your deadline almost every time by at least a little bit, and so you can be a little extra proud of yourself when you finish early upon your
Yeah.
estimate, right? Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
There's always, nothing's ever straightforward. That's the thing. When you
Nah.
make the estimate, you're like, nothing's going to go wrong. Yeah, my tools are already all out and found, and I have the right, thing on the right bit is on already. Like the fasteners are all going to be the right size, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
In your mind, it's
Not
all
gonna have to
perfect.
go to West Marine
Right.
3 times to finish this
Yeah.
project.
I
Well,
remember
how,
having
how
simple
did
stuff like a pad eye that had to get through bolted, right? And you're like, I've through bolted a million things. I think
yeah.
I've got the fasteners, the pad eyes right here, all my bits are, yeah, all the tools are in 10 square feet, so it should take an hour. That's very generous, right? And then like
Yeah.
sure enough, it's like, oh, this thing interferes with it, and like the head, the liner can't get smushed up against the fiberglass because this other thing is like poking down on it, and it's always
The
something. So
battery for the drill isn't charged. Oh, there goes another hour. I got to charge that.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah, this
this
nut is coarse
snowball
thread instead
effect.
of fine thread, or like it's just every time.
Well, I mean, on the maintenance front though, how did the boat do for the duration of the trip? How did it hold up?
So there were shenanigans for the first hour. That it's a pretty good
Mm,
story. But overall, and aside from that, like zero equipment failures. Everything worked
nice.
perfectly. I never found anything on a deck check that was ever a concern. Um, no, yeah, I was very pleased and proud of like the work I did. That it all like because some of that stuff I hadn't been able to really sea trial properly. Like I installed a furler and a new sail, and
Oh, you did that in San Francisco.
yeah, and I'd barely used it, and I'd only used it in like light winds, and for the most part, one day I got spanked, and I like learned a pretty tough lesson about uh furling a
Oh,
sail in
do
heavier
tell.
winds.
What? Oh
Just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just a classic idiot like, oh, it's oh my God, it's really windy. I'm just gonna like furl this sail while sailing to windward. Like I'm not gonna bear away. I'm just gonna like and then the sheets get away from you. Next thing you know, the sail's flogging and like really violently, and you can't pull it in, and like not having enough, you have to have a certain amount of like wraps. Um, I basically ran out of furling line because if you do like a harbor furl and you do it in light conditions at the dock,
Yeah,
it takes a
yeah.
certain amount to get the thing, wrapped up right. Then you go and furl that thing in 30 knots of wind, and it
Tight
takes
as a
more.
drum.
Yes. So I like ran out. I couldn't furl totally, and the flogging and all kinds of stuff. But no, the furler was my best friend. It worked perfectly the whole time. I made a little adjustment. Installing a rope clutch was extraordinarily helpful. It's the only one on the
Ah,
boat that I have.
yeah.
But keeping that furling line locked in a rope clutch, so I could furl anytime I wanted to with it locked, and it could never
Hmm.
get away from me. But if
Yeah.
I wanted to unfurl, I had to really think because I had to open the clutch so I had to be like ready to do that. And
Yeah, like
um,
put the line on a winch, then open the clutch, ease it off.
yeah, in my case, there's no winch for that, but I just, get a turn around a cleat and get like,
There you go. Yeah, some
yeah,
friction, right?
yeah, and do it carefully and under control. And yeah,
So
worked so
you're a
well.
convert then. No more Hank-ons for you. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Another dead soldier. Just all right.
Truth be told, I was
Crossing.
always a what is it? What do they call those Republicans? Name only rhinos. I'm like a Hino. I was just a Hank on like without a choice. I was never. I always
Yeah,
wanted a
yeah.
first.
Well, I'm up here. I'm up here dying on this Hank on Hill up here, and I have all these people, or I had all these people, and they're slowly dropping off left, right, and center. And I'm like, oh man, everybody's going furling. And dude, truth be told though, I was on a 16-dayer on a West sail that had furling sails, and when the winds were shifty and it was squally and all that sort of stuff, it was really nice to be able to just zip that thing away real quick and pull it right out like in the
Yeah,
lull after the squall. But
yeah,
I will say I missed being able to really like throw up a drifter, throw up this, and because I usually carry about 5 or 6 different size jibs, and
hmm
granted it's a lot of work, but man, you can really tune that thing up to the conditions. Something fierce, but like I
yeah.
said, you're up on the bowsprit, you're wet. It's I guess a little risky, which is why, although no, there's enough practice involved where I think I'm pretty good at it. But yeah, I don't know. Everybody,
I still get where you're coming. Like, I think if you're trying to go around the world nonstop, that may be like the only time I'd want Hank on is like you're gonna be there so long. Like, how many spare furling lines are you gonna bring with you?
yeah,
The
right.
long term like chafe and maintenance and stuff. I'd rather Hank on for that. And also like your boat, having the ability to like lash them down when you drop them and not have to like take the sail down and like fold
And
it and
bag
put,
it up. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and having some room for
Fold
that
it? Did you
stuff.
say fold it?
Flake it, bag it,
No, I mean I wouldn't even do
Oh,
that.
you
I
would
stuffed that
just,
sucker in that bag so hard. I'm just like,
yeah,
get
yeah,
away. Yeah.
yeah. I used to do that too. I didn't even bag them. I would just like, like walk back with that. Sometimes I'd open the
Well,
hatch and just, yeah,
I'm really lucky because West Sales does have a pretty decent size like bit of bulwarks,
right.
so about a foot tall on either side, and I can actually, if the weather's not bad, I usually have like 2 or 3 different sail bags that are I tie them off to one of the stanchions, but they can just
hmm
sit and live up on that foredeck. And there's been some trips where they've been up there for months, and
hmm
well, maybe not months. Let's be honest, like weeks at a time. And it's
Sure.
nice because my whole sale plan is up there. I just got to switch them out. But they
Yeah.
get so salt encrusted. Like the thought of bringing them down below is just like the death rattle. Just like, oh, you're going to bring so much moisture into this boat if you do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The truth is, like, the more I sail, the more experience I get, the more I realize there really are no like black and white answers. It depends on
Yeah.
the boat, depends on what you're doing with the boat, depends on the person, depends on how many crew. Like there's no, you know, anytime you hear a black and white answer for someone from someone about something, I think you gotta keep researching because there's,
Yeah. Take
people
it
give
with a grain
advice
of
based
salt.
on their boat and their situation and what they know. And, you know, there's a lot of advice that could get you into trouble if it's not, suited to your situation.
Little freeze
So
there.
it says
Hold on,
reconnecting, but
get
you said to
back
keep
in.
talking, so I guess I'll keep talking.
Here it comes. Here it comes. There we go.
There we
Oh,
go. I tried to
there
keep
we go. We're
talking.
back. Yeah. Oh, no worries, man. I don't know what it is. We've just it's definitely on my end because it's been happening. We've been having a lot of Google meetings and stuff like that lately, and yeah, sorry about that, but
No, good. So I
I hear you.
mentioned, oh, sorry.
Well, I definitely hear you on that because I think that the probably the best way to think of like pros and cons and all that sort of stuff and trying to decide what you want really is in that statement of it's about your own personal preference. And I will happily deal with the rolling straight downwind sailing that Mighty Sparrow does, or the non-ability to punch into a choppy sea, and I will trade that for weathering a storm down in my bunk and fully confident that we'll be okay. Whereas
Yeah.
some people are like, no, dude, I want all performance. I don't even care if I have to sleep like on the cabin sole. I'm not looking for comfort. And as long as you're honest with yourself, then I think you're going to have the best time of finding kind of the right boat in the right situation.
Yeah, I've been finding that too. I've been like, a lot of all this sailing is like teaching me, I'm like discovering what kind of sailor I really am. And I'm finding, I think I'm similar to you, where my priority is confidence in the boat in all conditions
Yeah.
and, you know, relative comfort. Um,
It's
I'm on a
always
boat.
relative.
Right, right. Let's not delude ourselves, but
Yeah, yeah. This isn't Instagram, man. We're not trying to live our best lives. We are trying to take on challenges and discomfort and suffering with a big smile on our face.
I'm glad you just said that too. I almost wanted to take notes. I know this is like a free flowing thing, but I was like, there's so many. I kept having these thoughts this week, like, that's something I'd really like to talk to Jerome about. There were, these experiences are so dense and there's so much there,
There's
but
so much, dude. Yeah.
there was one thing that kind of goes with what you just said. It's like not about living your best life, where you've heard the type 1 and type 2 fun thing. You're familiar with that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
You
heard of
know,
that.
and I brought that up to someone who's kind of like a mentor to me, this James Baldwin, who circumnavigated twice on the same kind of boat solo.
Yeah.
And he like appreciated that angle, but he was like, yeah, I don't even think fun is the word. He's like, sailing for me taught me that like fun is overrated. It's about satisfaction, um, and fulfillment. And I
Interesting.
was like, you know what? I think you're right. I think this whole type 1, type 2, like it's still in retrospect not fun per se. Sailing for me out there are moments that are kind of like fun, but it's not fun the way like Yahtzee's fun. It's like it's just,
Is
but it's
Yahtzee
deep.
really that fun?
I think Yahtzee's great. It's like the only game on the boat.
Dude, when
Uh,
we meet up, we're playing some Yahtzee.
sweet, you're on. But no, I didn't find, it's not, I wouldn't call it fun, but it was deeply satisfying, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting perspective on it, and the whole fulfillment thing. I mean, I tend to think of the whole type 1, type 2 adventure or fun as kind of the balance between suffering and joy. And I know that me personally, I'm looking for the things I look forward to when I head offshore by myself are those moments where I am in absolute awe of the world around me. And it just fills me with this feeling of just amazement that, the clouds are forming like they are, or the waves, or the stars, all this sort of stuff. but I'm really, really aware of the fact that that feeling is always going to be amplified by the amount of suffering and fear and just awful times that you're going to, i.e., type 2 fun, that you're going to have to go through to then finally reach that. And I don't know. It's, I tend to always look at those really uncomfortable times of suffering as a gift because it's almost an investment in the future joy to come when the situation changes. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that allows me to do what I do for such long extended periods of time, and keeps me wanting to go back out there because, like I said, I mean, mostly this winter I was basically getting my butt kicked on the Atlantic, but there'd be these 1 or 2 days of just perfect sailing afterwards, and that made it all worth it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The sweet ain't as sweet without the bitter. Yeah.
Yeah, it really isn't, man. And that, hey, it's one of those things I think about it too, that you could take it way too far. For instance, you could be like, dude, you know what? I'm not going to eat a piece of chocolate until I'm 96 years old. And then when I eat that piece of chocolate, it's going to be so good. It's probably going to
Yeah.
kill me. And
Right.
it's like, well, I don't want to live like a monk like that just to, experience all this joy at the very end. But I guess for me, it's really just a way to refocus and take a different perspective on a bad situation. And because I'm always trying to just turn it around and make it something that isn't really so bad, and we're gonna try and find the smallest sliver of goodness out of it just to help me get through it with a bit more of a smile on my face.
Hmm. I
Because
think,
I mean,
go ahead.
well, I like as you're out there as a solo sailor, so you've experienced it. Like it's such a mental game, and you do such a great job. That video that you made of the trip from Oregon down, really expressing what's going on inside the head and the emotions that you feel. And I feel like part of the uniqueness of solo sailing is that we kind of have to be our own therapist and our own little examiner of our brains, because we have to maintain a pretty level head, or else mistakes are made and you don't come back.
Hmm.
And so it becomes this thing where we're like students of our own brain to try and not only keep our wits about us, but also maintain a pretty decent bit of morale. And like, yes, I am glad I am out here right now in the rain and cold and it's 2 a.m. Yes, I'm glad.
Yeah, it's I think the sailing in general, maybe solo sailing, ocean sailing, it's a good way, I think, to like, you're in your example with the chocolate and not being too monkish. It's
Yeah.
you're not exercising direct control, and that's kind of the beauty of it, I think. It's like I'm putting myself into the hands of nature. And so like it's not up to me if it's going to be nice or how many pleasant days, like that ratio of suffering to joy, like ultimately isn't my call.
Right,
It's
right.
there's going to be whatever it is. And to your point about like mindset, I had a day where I began to annoy myself with the internal complaining, you know?
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
and I said to myself, all right, you've got this list of grievances going on right now. Um, let's let's get them on paper, and then we can't indulge anymore, right? Like I'm gonna write these out, and I'm gonna stew on them while I'm writing them, and then they're gone, and I can't complain about these things anymore. So I made the list, and then I realized that it I had an issue with every aspect of reality at that moment. Like the entitlement was what was so evident, was like I have this entitlement that things should be the way I want them to be, and they should be like perfect and ideal all the time. And so the list was like so childish. It was like the wind's too strong, the wind's from the wrong direction, it's too cloudy out, it's too cold. The waves are too big. They're coming from the wrong direction. It was literally like everything about reality at that moment I was not
Yeah.
accepting and was actively complaining about. Once I saw it on paper and realized how entitled and childish it was, it was like, oh, okay. This will, and the other lesson was like, it changes all the time. The like
Yeah.
impermanence that that's like a lesson that was so recurring was everything is constantly in flux, and any little thing you're going to complain about is going to be different really soon. Anything that is pleasing you is also going to go away really soon. So,
Well, just so you don't feel like you're unique in that situation. If you read any of my logbook entries, and I keep a very detailed log, it is a litany of just complaints and me waxing on about why it isn't just perfect at all times.
yeah.
But to your point, though, that idea of that it's always changing, whenever I would get in a situation where it was awful, and for me one of the worst is the calm after the storm. You still got the waves, you're not making any progress and all that stuff, and the
Hmm.
biggest thing that always helped me was just projecting myself to that point of like, oh, there is going to be a point where that wind comes back up. I'm going to set the mainsail and we're not going to be rolling anymore. And all I have to do is make it from where I am right now to that point, which is a guarantee it's going to happen. I just have to go the distance. I don't know how long that distance will be, but I know that that's all I got to do. Just do that.
Hmm.
Because sometimes I'd fall into that trap where everything's kind of going wrong, and then I'm starting to think of the entire voyage that's ahead of me, and now I'm overwhelmed and the anxiety levels are going up, and all in reality it's because I'm in a bad mood because of this situation, which is isolated here in the Atlantic Ocean, and I shouldn't really be thinking about the Indian or the Pacific or the next
Hmm.
round in the Atlantic. And that was where I was like, no, okay. And it really came from the owner of the Bitter End Yacht Club. He sat me down before I left, and he was like, listen, my one bit of advice is that the winds will always change, no matter
Hmm.
if it's good or bad or what situation you're in. Just remember, it's always going to change. Nothing's permanent out there. And that
Hmm.
always stuck with me for sure. And I think it helped, again, get through the bad to that good spot that I'm always looking for.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful advice. Uh, there was something I heard in like a meditation app talk at
Mm.
one point that has also been super helpful. It was a meditation on pain, right? But it could be just like discomfort in general. And the idea was like the the hard thing about pain when you feel like it's more than you can bear, like, and I'm talking mostly about like physical pain in this case, right? Like if you've got
Yeah.
like a gnarly stomach ache or a toothache or something super painful, broken bone. Um, Most of the suffering isn't what you're experiencing in that moment. It's like fear that it's going to get worse or that it'll never stop. And if you feels like you can't bear it, when you have that thought, I can't bear this, you've already borne it, like by definition. You are in the process of bearing it.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
that you can bear it, that you already are. So like that whole feeling of I can't take this, you're taking it already. Uh,
Yeah,
and
you're still
so
alive. You're not crippled on the ground, passed out.
yeah,
You're still able to function. Ah.
yeah. So I was able to kind of apply that concept too to some of the and frankly, I didn't have like a really trip that was very difficult for me mentally. There were of course like frustrations and like maybe one low spot one night, but it wasn't like a super difficult mentally trip. But I was maybe because I was able to kind of apply that thing of, yeah, if this sucks, it sucks, but I'm bearing it already, and it's I try not to make it any worse than it has to be, and just know that it's going to change soon. And
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
we almost have to be like our own little self motivators. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I use every trick in the book to just get me through those little rough patches. And yeah, I mean, it's that knowledge and that experience of learning those tricks was learned out there out of necessity 100%, or else yeah, I mean, I can remember in the beginning days being like, wow, what am I doing? Just questioning my life choices, like,
Yeah.
geez Louise.
I
Because
could be a
I'd
Dairy Queen
always
right now, you know.
yeah, right. I don't know, but I tell you what, I wanna go back real quick to that whole idea of when you get out there and you have to sort of relinquish your control over to Mother Nature, and we kind of go from a proactive lifestyle on land to more of like a reactive thing,
Hmm.
where these challenges by Mother Nature's accord just keep getting thrown at us. Let me ask you: Are you when you're on land in your everyday life or at your job or anything like that, are you the type of person that likes challenges constantly being thrown at you, that you have to like slay the dragon over and over again, douse the fire, all that sort of stuff? Or are you more of a person, kind of like, I guess in my own experience, I like things to flow pretty smoothly. A little bit of a chaos is kind of a nice thing, I suppose, every once in a while. But um, on land, I am not the same person as I am out at sea.
Hmm.
Do you find any sort of, does that resonate at all?
It does, I think. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I think for me, it's like I do my best to avoid adversity in my normal life
Yeah.
on a case by case basis. However, when faced with adversity, it's almost always a good thing in retrospect. And often realize it's like working out or anything else. It's like, it's my inclination is not to, but if I do it, it's better for me and I'm in a better place. Um, the thing about the sailing is like you just have to push off. Like that's the one decision that you make, that one
Yeah.
hard one, and then you don't have a choice. So like the adversity is coming, and you don't have to like actively seek it out or anything. Like you just have to put yourself in that position and do it once, and then after that, it's you have no choice. And I think that's maybe what you mean about like being a different person, because when you're out there, you can't really be lazy. You can't really do I find myself impressing myself sometimes with like, oh, you made that happen. It's like because you had to. You know what I mean? Like there's when you're thinking about these trips ahead of time, you're like, oh, but how will I deal with X, Y, and Z? Will I
Yeah.
feel lazy or be inactive or do this? And it's like, nope, because you can't. And you're just
Because you
gonna,
can't. Yeah.
yep. And you're gonna be like the guy you wish you were on land.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, and it can be in small doses. Like I know when a squall is coming, the winds are building up, boat's already heeling over. I'm a little late to put the reef in, and I'm like, ah, man, I don't want to get wet. And then you're just like, no, let's do this, and you just go up and you do like a perfect reef, and the sail looks great, and then the boat settles back down and you weather it and everything. And I'm always standing in the cockpit, just like you're saying, being like, you know, hand on the hip, like, yeah, I'm a sailor, man. And it
I
feels
love
good.
nothing like a nice tight pretty reef, right? Like and I tuck that third reef in and it's
Tuck
nice
you
and
everything.
tight and everything's nice and
Yeah.
yeah. Oof.
It is. Those are those little moments that I don't know, they make you proud, because right before then you're sitting there, at least I am. I'm sitting there with uncertainty, thinking, do I have to reef? Should I reef? All these questions are running through my head. But then when you actually go up there and you finish it, you do it, it's great. You're back in the cockpit. Then you're just like full of this, like, I'm an accomplished sailor. Look what I can do. Do you all see this? And nobody's around, but still,
Yeah.
it's something that I think I don't know, it warms my heart even for a few minutes out there.
Yeah. I had one of those, man, where I was in kind of squally area for a while, and I was watching them come and go and trying to gauge if they're going to hit me or not. And I had one that I was pretty sure was going to miss. Kind of come alongside and pass to port. And I'm sitting there, and I think I had two reefs in. My boat doesn't need a lot of sail area, so like two was kind of the norm for me. And
Yeah.
Um, I'm like, should I put a third reef in? I think maybe it was getting closer to the evening, and I was like, I'm probably gonna triple reef overnight anyway. Should I do it? And I really didn't think I needed to, but I did it anyway. And sort of a gut thing. I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And I put in a
Yeah.
third reef. This thing passes to port. I'm like, cool, yeah, it didn't hit me. And it was forward of the beam already. Like it had kind of passed me and was a little forward.
Uh-huh.
Blue skies above, and out of nowhere, I don't have a wind speed indicator or an anemometer. It must have been 40 or 50 knots that
Oh,
came out
jeez.
of nowhere. I mean, it was like it kind of knocked me over in the cockpit, like the wind did, not like the boat. Like the wind made it hard to
Yeah,
stand up
yeah.
in the cockpit, um, and even with the third, I should have taken the main down. I just had no idea that there'd be that much wind, like with blue sky, like behind a squall. And
Uh-huh.
oh my God, that was the only moment I was scared on the trip.
Oh,
Well, except for
jeez.
the first hour, but that was actually kind of terrifying because the boat was really wanting to round up,
Uh-huh.
and it got so much drive from the main, and it was trying to round up, and then like a big wave would push the stern and round me up a little more, and then the main would catch all that wind, and I was like pinned sideways, and the wind vanes trying to get me off the wind, and I had never felt wind like that in my life, and I was for a moment, and I was like, I need to drop the main, but I can't. There's this tiny boat, and the way it's moving and getting pinned over, like I can't go up there and do anything. So
Yeah,
luckily, it
yeah,
only
yeah.
lasted 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but it was that was the only
Sounds
point
like
where I was literally like scared,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely that's reminiscent of a microburst where you just get this little ball of energy that and it's usually affected by some clouds somewhere in some semblance, but yeah, I can remember in the Gulf Stream one time getting hit by a blast, and I saw and heard this downdraft hit the
Mm,
water, you know,
mm.
I don't know, a couple hundred yards away from Sparrow. And I was like, whoa, what is that? And it was already blowing really hard. But then all of a sudden we got hit, and I was going straight downwind with the triple reef main, and that's it. And it started to push my bow like down in the water. And to do that on a west sail is
On a West Hill. Whew.
pretty incredible. Yeah. And I was too in that situation of like, geez, I'm just trying to hold on to the boat at the moment.
Right.
And then, after a minute or so, I was like, I got to get that mainsail down. And it was one of the only times I have ever been fully bare poled, like no
Mm,
storm jib, sheeted amidships or anything.
right.
And thankfully, it too only lasted 10-15 minutes or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't have an anemometer either. Um, I just
Hmm.
know when it's windy or when it's not windy. But it's pretty incredible. Can you imagine, like literally getting hit by a hurricane, 70 knot winds, like steady 70, gusting to 90 or whatever, and just dealing with that for 24 hours?
It's hell on earth. I mean, that just sounds,
Apocalyptic, dude.
yeah, just no,
Oh,
thank you. No,
no. Ay,
I'd,
ay, ay.
I'd
I
you
couldn't
got
even.
you got a clean podcast. There's a saying I want to throw out there, but I'll tell you later.
Oh, you can. We'll do a caveat if
I,
you
I
want. But
I always say I'd rather stick my dick in a bee's nest.
uh, well, I it's kind of interesting. I'm hoping to do a little collaboration with John Kretschmer this
Mm,
November if I'm on shore. He does these seminars and stuff. Where he brings in groups of people and they do a lot of seamanship and everything. And we had talked about bringing me in to do like a day of like solo sailing stuff, do the presentation and whatnot. And
dude, I would
I
love to
mean,
be there for that. That sounds awesome.
well, I'd love to be there just for being able to talk to that guy, because I don't know if you're familiar with any of his work, but
I'm a
he
massive
he has,
Kretschmer fan. Yeah.
dude, how many hurricanes? And he's so self-effacing about it because he's just like, and I blundered into another hurricane out there, and like he's like, it was the longest night of my life sitting at the helm, and I mean, he's seen things that I can't even imagine. And my gosh, just to be able to sit down and talk to him, I think it would be pretty amazing to hear kind of what that's like. I mean, I can definitely relate to quite a few of his stories, but there's some of them where I think because he didn't go through Hurricane Mitch, and I can't remember what the other one was. It was in his earlier days,
Mm,
but golly, that book, Sailing a Serious Ocean, I think is like a must have on every
yeah,
vessel that goes to sea.
I agree. I listened to, I tend to listen to more books at sea than read. And I listened to Sailing to the Edge of Time again while I was out there this time, and yeah, meeting Kretschmer would be really cool. It's a bucket list thing for me too. He's like a hero. It's
Yeah,
something I love about the sailing community is like the accessibility though of these people. Like if you want to meet your heroes, you can.
you can.
For me,
Oh yeah.
yeah, talking to James Baldwin, the guy I mentioned earlier,
And
having kind
is
of a
that is that Sailor James on
no,
YouTube?
it's a different no.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
guy the one I'm talking about. I did talk to the Sailor James too on the trip. He's become a friend. I met him in Berkeley when he was giving a talk. And but James Baldwin did two solo circumnavigations on a Pearson Triton, so the same boat, in the 80s, and wrote four books and does unbelievable like refits to similar boats. And he works out of Georgia at his house, and
Mm,
I'll send you some links. The work he does, I mean, he makes these old boats from the 60s and 70s like better than new and just
yeah.
works of art and so utilitarian. He's got this really cool, like kind of minimalist, functional ethic that a Baldwin refit boat would be like my dream, And so what I've done with this one is my version of what he does to his boats, and so it's way jankier, but it's like, the designs and the ideas are there, and anyway, being able to like call him up, or sit here and talk to you, or if you want, and Sailor James and all these people, or if I wanted to go out of my way, I'm sure I could meet Kretschmer somehow, and it's just so
Yeah,
cool
yeah,
because
yeah.
other things, like music, or if you're like into acting or something, good luck meeting Gary Oldman or
Yeah.
whatever, you know what I mean?
Right, right. No,
So,
it is. I think it's the community of sailors definitely are pretty wide open to that. And, I mean, it's kind of like when I emailed Sam Holmes back in the day. And, he just shot me back an email. He was like, actually, I'm passing right through Beaufort or Buford. So I'll stop
mm,
by the boat. We can do a podcast. And it was
sweet.
great. He had no idea who I was. I knew him just from that one video that he made that went, pretty viral, going to Hawaii doing the trip that you just did. I think he did LA to Hawaii, but
That was probably
yeah.
my number one inspiration was him in that video. Like that was
Oh,
I saw
really?
that video like 7 years ago and was like, "Oh my God, that looks I just need to experience that." It's like
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
that's it right there, I don't need to experience it on a 23 footer. Uh
Right, right, right.
28 is probably small enough. I mean, honestly, depending on the weather window you get, now having done it, I'm like I could see if you don't get
Oh,
crazy
yeah.
weather, like you could do that on a 23 footer, but it certainly wouldn't be comfortable.
No,
Yeah.
I definitely like it. I think there obviously there's limitations to it, but like I wouldn't want to go below 32 feet anymore just because I've been on that for so long that I've grown accustomed to that room and that convenience and how she sails and all that. Now, if I were to step up, I mean, there's always been this sort of dream in the back of my head of, picking up some 50-foot something or other old school boat on the West Coast and bringing it back to the East Coast via, the trade wind route around the world.
Mm.
But the reason for the bigger boat isn't just for me, it's so that I can actually go with like three or four other people and do different legs of the journey and stop places. That's kind of, in some ways, it's kind of the retirement plan, if you will. But yeah, I don't know. For solo sailing, I don't know. I mean, even Bernard Moutissier, he stepped back down. Joshua was, I think, 43 feet or something, and he ended
Mm.
up stepping back down to 32 for his last boat that he built because he was just like, this is just perfect for solo. And I don't
Yeah.
know. He's the guru, man. He's the goat as far as
Right.
I'm concerned.
Right.
But
Yeah.
he also, sorry, just to go back to what you were
Hmm.
saying about the Baldwin stuff. Simplicity is really just an absolute. I think it's an absolute key when you do extended, like month, 2 month, 3 month long voyages where you're not stopping, or where you are stopping, there's nothing. That simplicity is what allows us to do it. You get too complicated, and man, things come off the rails so fast that one system breaks down, which breaks down the next, and then the next thing you know, you're like, dude, I can't even raise my mainsail.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things I love about this boat, and then things that I would want in any boat. Like I think any boat I'd want I want a tiller, for example. I don't want a
Yeah,
wheel. I
yeah.
want a tiller. I don't like my lines led aft. I like them at the mast. This boat has two seacocks. That's
Wow, that must be nice.
yeah, and they're brand. I put them in myself. They're brand new, and it's just simple stuff like that. I adore this boat. But it is a mechanical bull ride out there. Um,
It totally is, I'll bet. Yeah, West Sails kind of do that too. They've got enough heft that it's kind of
mhm.
like a slow motion bull, but yeah, it's amazing how the body adapts to the situation out there given enough time. I mean, like I said, you get back on land on steady ground and you're wobbling all over the place because you've adjusted to this whole different feel. But
Isn't that always it's strange to me because it's like you would think out at sea I developed this strength and this balance. And
yeah.
so walking on hard ground I should be walking straighter than ever. I should be a master walker,
You
right?
would think so.
But there's something that gets recalibrated. I don't know. And you kind of look for a
uh,
handhold all the time for a minute, like you feel that
oh
too? Like it's
yeah.
like I need to hold on to something and how am I going to stand up straight? Yeah. Yeah, this boat kind of bucks
I'm
you a little
always
bit in
trying
the
to like
cockpit
clutch on
when things
to
are,
door lintels
a
and
little sloppy
every
out there.
rail that I
It's
possibly
funny.
can
It's
to
fun.
just, I don't know, steady up. Oh, there we go. We're
There
back.
we
We're
go.
back.
We're back,
Yeah.
baby.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll
no,
tell you
in the
that.
small boat, I like this. I like when you pull in and you need a slip. It's, they're like,
Super easy.
we don't know. It's kind of hard right now. How big is your boat? And I'm like 28, and they're like, oh, okay, no, we got you. You know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
there's definitely some joys to it for sure, but I will say it is kind of a lonely little life that I have on my boat because I have taken ex-girlfriends, stuff like that. Well, they were current girlfriends on weekend trips down in the islands and stuff. And it was cool to share the experience and share the boat and everything. But boy, it's tight. It's real tight.
It is.
Even just for two people, I would think 38 is like my minimum where I'd be like, okay, yeah, we can do two of us on this boat for a good, full season. And I've got friends that definitely get on even smaller boats and couples, and they love it. And I think it's just one of those things. Ignorance is bliss. Like they've never been on a bigger boat. There's just two
Hmm.
of them. And so it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's our first boat. It's 28 feet and we love it. It's like, oh, if you only knew what two cabins and like a real big head and all that sort of stuff is.
Yeah, for
But
a while I
that's
was
neither here nor
afraid.
there.
I used to like be afraid to step on a bigger boat. I was like, nope, I don't want to know. I don't want to see it. I don't want
Yeah, right.
to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to see
Yeah.
that. I don't want to see the price tag. Let's
I
just.
don't know if you remember these two, the father son Green Beret pair that left Washington at the same time as me, and we met up again. They had an island pack at 40, And
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, and sitting in that boat and like comparing notes before and after the trip was uh,
There we go. You're back.
there we go. Yeah, this Island
Sorry.
Packet 40, like before and after, we'd like our boats were next to each other and it looked so hilarious. And they'd come, we'd hang out in their place and it's like loungy and a couple of heads and, just huge and he's cooking like real food in a real galley and stuff. And then we come over to my boat and after being on that one, it was just so silly, like over here, it's just like it's pretty tiny,
Micro
man.
universe. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But you get
but
used to that and then you appreciate
you
it.
do. Yeah, and it is one of those things. I've always defended the small boat by saying the smaller the boat, the stronger the boat, because there's less surface area. The construction of a smaller boat is typically going to be stronger, square foot by square foot than anything bigger. And maybe that's completely false, but it feels like it's right. I mean, you hold an egg in your hand lengthwise and you can't crush it. And that's, it's a small little thing. If you had a giant egg, I'm sure you'd be able to crush it.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
don't know if that's right either,
I
but I
don't
like the
know if
sound of it.
that's right. That one I don't know. I don't know about. Well, so I guess because we're already, oh my god, we're already closing in on the hour, and I have dinner with the folks tonight, which is something I
Nice.
definitely don't want to miss. But before we wrap this up, what's the game plan? What's the future hold?
Okay, that's a good question. So I don't have one. I don't have a specific plan right now. When I came out, I was unsure of whether I would want to return to Washington on this boat or not, or if I'd want to keep sailing westward in the trades. Or I basically thought there were three options: go back to Washington on this boat, hate the trip and not want to sail again and sell the boat here, or love it and want to keep going west. I determined like midway through this trip, there's no way I'm sailing this thing back to Washington. Um,
Whoa.
I was like, no way. Because A, I don't want to. Like, like I don't want to be done. And
Yeah.
B, I wouldn't want to sail this boat that on that route. It's a little, I don't have an inboard engine. You got to go way up north and kind of beat to wind. It's 28 feet. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah. It's
solo. It's getting darker every day and grayer every day, wetter and every day, colder every day. And it's 30 days trip probably and beating for a week and then possible calms and then variable stormy stuff up north. No. Um, and I have no problem saying that. Like I don't want to do that at all. Um, so the question is, do I sail westward or not? It's an open kind of thought. There's a possible route that I'm interested in. Without even most people go south. I think like Marshall Islands and Saipan and Philippines, you can kind of stay in the trades and just head straight west, and those are
yeah.
interesting ideas. But I also am curious about a little bit bigger boat, maybe closer to 32 feet at some point. And with my situation, like being in the Atlantic makes actually a lot more sense for me. So
Yeah.
I'm considering, changing it up and going over there and looking for a boat on that coast because yeah, like with I work remotely and the time zones are way better for me if I'm over there. The time it's already getting kind of silly out here. I'm like, I got to start earlier and it would only get
Yeah. Yeah.
worse. And the Pacific is, if I stop, stopping in like atolls and stuff, it's as a solo sailor, some people are into that stuff. It's a little isolating to me. I think I like to have a few when I'm at shore, I'd like to have some people around and stuff. Um, Anyway, and I love Spain. That's like one of my favorite places. I'm very curious about Portugal. I have friends and
Ooh,
some
the
family out
Azores. Yeah,
in the
yeah,
Azores.
yeah.
I got friends and family on the East Coast. I lived in Colombia for a bunch of years, so I have a bunch of people there I'd like to see. And then with the time zone thing, like it all, the Pacific, you can go west and you're never coming back. You'd have to go all the way around, basically. In the
Yeah,
Atlantic, it's a big, you can do circuits and all along the circuit there are points of interest for me. So like long
right, right.
term, I'm hooked on the cruising thing. I like sailing and I like living on a boat. I think maybe a little bit more room, and I think being in the Atlantic, like in the long term, is kind of that could be on the horizon.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like you got a few decisions to make and all that sort of stuff. But that's cool, man. I mean, that's part of the beauty of it is that, that whole romantic idea of the freedom of setting sail, I think also plays into directly the fact that you may start out with one plan and then you can just 180 that sucker whenever you feel like it because the adventure is all yours. It's all up to you. It's totally unique. You're not beholden to anything. And it's kind of like, well, hey, you know what? If I'm digging this, let's do this. If I'm not, let's not. And we're just, going to keep chasing after it. Cause, the goals are always going to be evolving. They're always going to be changing. And, yeah, I think sometimes if you try to like put your head down and bull through just to meet that goal that you made so long ago and you don't really even care about anymore, then you're almost falling into the same old trap of like, oh, I need to get a job and a house and a mortgage and save up so that I can do this all when I'm 65,
Yeah, totally.
if that makes sense.
No, it makes great sense. And I felt that pressure before, and it's the interesting thing about goals is, it's a fine line between like abandoning a goal as soon as it isn't
As soon as
easy
it gets
to
hard.
shoot
Yeah,
for,
right.
right? But also not, wasting your time and toiling towards something that isn't giving you any happiness or satisfaction anymore. So it's part of the journey, I guess, is like just figuring that stuff out as you go.
Well, and I think that's a kind of a interesting note to end on is my take on that whole kind of debacle of like, is the goal I really want anymore? And you kind of get that uncertainty in that question. And I'll tell you what, if there's one thing besides patience that the ocean world has taught me more than anything else, it's taught me how to be dead honest with myself, how to
Mm,
really just say, okay, you know what? This is not what I want, or this is exactly where I want to go and what I want to do. Because it's so easy to try and pretend, and your ego gets in there because people say this is cool, and there's all these outside sort of things. But man, when you're alone on a boat in the middle of the ocean and you got nothing else, it's just if you got one thing, it's perfect truth and honesty, and it's such an amazing place. And I'm so thankful that stumbled across the whole idea of solo sailing, and
hmm
it didn't just skirt past me and I never saw it because I don't know where I'd ever find these lessons that I've learned anywhere else in life. It's really, I think, a unique situation to be in, and even when the times are really hard, I think it's well worth it, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, man, big time on that. And I think uh it's nice for me personally because I've dealt with some of the ego stuff or maybe not even ego, maybe it is ego, I don't know, but like feeling like I had something to prove, even if it were to
Yeah,
myself, like feeling, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can sail to San Francisco, the West Coast is so gnarly, blah blah blah. I got to prove that I can do that. And then it was I got to prove I can make an offshore like crossing, I didn't
right.
cross the whole Pacific, but like an ocean passage. Uh, it's nice to check some of those off because then I feel like it allows you to be a little bit more honest. Like okay, I no longer have to prove anything, right? Like I can call myself a sailor now. I don't have to
Oh,
want to sail my
absolutely.
boat back to Washington. I don't have to prove any, you know what I mean? There's a freedom
Yeah,
that
yeah.
comes, I think, with paying your dues a little bit and just being like, this is the kind of sailing I want to do, even if that means, even if I said I want to move to the Bahamas and I just want to sail, in nice tropical weather when it's nice, and I want to spend most of my days spearfishing and whatever, like all that's totally cool. And it's, um, yeah, being able to, I guess in my case, maybe some people are more mature and they would have been able to go straight to that place where they're comfortable with whatever it is that they want. But in my case, I feel like I had a little chip on my shoulder and I had to get a couple of things marked off the list. And now I feel like I can breathe a little bit and be like, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Well, absolutely you can. And let me say it first, Captain Colin Denker. You pushed off from one continent and headed out into the big bad Pacific to cross 2,000 miles of it and hit a little dot of an island called Hawaii. And if that doesn't take courage and guts and a whole lot of endurance, I could list off 80 million different terms for it, but what it is it's awesome, man. And it shows the type of character and the type of person that you are, and the fact that you made it, the skill set that you've got, and the experience that you have now. Heck yeah, man. Captain, definitely deserve that. You impressed me, my friend, and I'm super stoked. And I'm dude, we're obviously gonna have to have some more check-ins and more podcasts, because it's always great to sit down and I almost feel like this is like a philosophy podcast in a lot of ways too, whenever I sit with you. Because we get a little deep, and I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. And thanks for the kind words. And I know we're wrapping up, but like it's funny. It's not false modesty for me to say this. Like it really isn't. Like the whole thing doesn't feel like that big of a deal, you know? It's like, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal earlier. I kind of talked lightly about the Hawaii trip, but um, I know ocean sailing can get crazy, and there are trips that you can do that are crazy. I think what you did is crazy, but I don't think it's a big deal to sail Hawaii. I think you should try to be prepared and stuff, but like I don't think it's I don't know, like anybody could do it. It's pretty easy.
Dude, well, here's my retort to that, sir.
Uh,
You get offshore, there's freaking bloodthirsty whales. You got lightning bolts the size of telephone poles. You could get hit by hurricanes, squalls, microbursts. You could get attacked by, I don't know, seabirds at any time. Shoot, you can get speared in the neck by a flying fish in the middle of the night. There's a lot of dangers that you are literally rolling the dice on every single day. And
yeah.
the worst of all being sinking and then ending up in a life raft and having sharks poke at you from underneath. All right.
Thanks for
So
the reminder.
just so you have that in your list in the back of your head next time
Yeah,
you
sorry.
decide to go out to sea.
I'm trying to thread the needle here. I don't want to sound like I don't respect the danger of it. I'm just trying to stay humble and say like I sailing in Hawaii solo is not, going into space or you know what I mean? It's like it's
Right. No, hey,
I
I
don't know.
honestly I 100% understand that, because when I was pulling back into Gloucester, 271 days out at sea, and people like come out and there's boats, and they escort me in and everything, and everybody's super excited, and I'm kind of like, what's the big deal? I was just out there today sailing. It became so routine for me to just, that was what I did every day, was sail. I didn't really think of the trip anymore in the scope. I just thought of it as a day-to-day sort of thing, and I was like, well, yeah, no big deal. And everybody's like, whoa, dude, you made it all the way around. So it's one of those things where when we do these kind of adventures, we have a different perspective on it for sure.
Yeah.
But mark my words, bro, you braved a lot of risky stuff out there. A lot of
Yeah,
bad
I
stuff
know.
can happen, and just putting
Yeah.
yourself in that situation and saying, you know what, whenever it comes at me, I'm going to rise to that challenge. It takes a lot of guts, and it shows a lot of character. So tipping my hat to you, and I can't
Thanks,
wait to
man. I'll
check in
take that
again.
because that's how I feel too. Is like what I respect in other people that have done it. It's just the pushing off. That's the
Yeah.
impressive part to me. That's the hard part, like that's the scary part, pushing off, and I'm proud to have done that. But once you push off, like anything can happen, but most people I think would make it. So
Good man. Forever modest. He's the humblest, folks. I love it. Don't worry about it. It's all good. All right. Thanks for coming on the show. We're definitely going to check back in again. And yeah, man, looking forward to it.
Thanks for having me, Jerome. Always fun. Appreciate it.
Definitely.